man, I'll give you $1 million, whatever it takes. You know, it's like exaggerated speech. But of course, when we interview Keefe D, he's like, yeah, that's what the agreement amount was, $1 million.
It's 2020, y'all. Yeah. And it's different than when it was 2016. You know, the game has been elevated. As we can tell, there's no expense being spared. We had a black billionaire's lunch. Yeah. You understand? Right. And we here together, and we're going to keep staying together.
For 30 years, the hip-hop world has whispered the same question. Who really orchestrated Tupac's elimination? Tonight, federal documents reveal shocking evidence that two of music's biggest moguls, Sean Combs and Jay-Z, may have been pulling the strings behind the most infamous incident in rap history. FBI agents, sealed testimonies, million-dollar contracts, and decades of buried secrets are finally surfacing. What you're about to discover will shatter everything you thought you knew about September 7th, 1996. The evidence is overwhelming. The conspiracy runs deeper than anyone imagined, and the truth will change hip-hop history forever. Let me take you back to November 30th, 1994. Quad Recording Studios, Times Square, Manhattan. Tupac Shakur walks into what should have been a routine recording session. Instead, he walks into an ambush that will set the stage for everything that follows. Picture this. Tupac gets a call from James "Jimmy Henchman" Roseman, offering $7,000 to record a verse for Little Sean. $7,000 might not sound like much today, but Tupac needed the money for legal bills. He was facing trial for charges he claimed were set up against him. So Tupac arrives at Quad Studios with his crew. Everything seems normal until he hits the lobby. 3 men with identical items surrounded him. They demand his jewelry, his money, everything. But here's where it gets interesting. These weren't random robbers. They went straight for Tupac specifically. When Tupac resisted and reached for his own item, they opened fire 5 times. Twice in the head, twice in the groin area, once in the hand. The man barely survived. 1 bullet even grazed his skull. This wasn't a robbery gone wrong. This was an attempted elimination disguised as a heist. But here's the real kicker. Sean Combs and Notorious B.I.G. were upstairs in the same building during the incident. Same building, same night, recording their own music while Tupac was getting ambushed floors below. What are the chances? Tupac himself didn't believe in coincidences. In his famous Vibe interview, he directly accused Combs and Biggie of having advanced knowledge of the setup. Quote, "They knew I was coming. They knew exactly when I'd be there."
Do you think Puffy was involved in the shooting?
Only they can answer that question. I have my own opinion, but I wouldn't slander their name like they did mine. I wouldn't say things that I knew, you know what I mean? I believe so. I do believe so.
And here's where Jay-Z enters the picture. Multiple sources report that Jay-Z was part of the New York rap circles that were escalating tensions with the West Coast artists. Industry insiders claim he was aware of plans to send a message to Tupac about disrespecting East Coast hip-hop. The Quad Studios incident wasn't just an isolated attack. It was the first domino in a carefully orchestrated campaign that would culminate 20 months later on the Las Vegas Strip. Fast forward to September 7th, 1996, the Mike Tyson fight at the MGM Grand. Tupac and Suge Knight attend the boxing match, celebrating Tyson's victory. Everything seems perfect until hotel surveillance catches Tupac and Death Row affiliates confronting Orlando Anderson, a Southside Compton Crip. This confrontation wasn't random either. Anderson had allegedly tried to rob a Death Row chain earlier that year, but federal documents now suggest this MGM Grand altercation was exactly what certain East Coast interests were waiting for, the perfect excuse for retaliation. Later that night, Tupac and Suge are sitting at a traffic light in a black BMW. A white Cadillac pulls up and fire erupts. Tupac is struck 4 times, arm, thigh, twice in the chest. One struck his right lung. 6 days later, September 13th, he passes away from internal bleeding at University Medical Center.
Near fatal, but he couldn't survive a second. Rap star Tupac Shakur last night after a brief life in a rough business. He was 25.
The official story focuses on G retaliation, but FBI documents tell a different tale. One involving East Coast moguls, million-dollar contracts, and hired muscle from Los Angeles gangs. What happened next is where the story gets really sinister. For over a decade, key evidence was buried, witnesses disappeared, and the investigation went nowhere. But federal agents were quietly building a case that would eventually expose the truth. March 9, 1997, 6 months after Tupac's passing, Notorious B.I.G. is eliminated in Los Angeles in what everyone assumes is retaliation. Two of hip-hop's biggest stars gone within months of each other. The East Coast versus West Coast war reaches its climax. But here's what most people don't realize. Both incidents were allegedly connected to the same network of music industry players and organized crime figures. Federal investigators would later discover that both eliminations were business decisions disguised as gang warfare. Enter Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, the man who would eventually become the key to unlocking this entire conspiracy. In 1998 and 1999, federal agents interviewed Keefe D. under a proffer agreement. These early interviews are fascinating because Keefe D. completely denied involvement in Tupac's case. He told federal investigators that the Compton Police Department was responsible, acting under orders from Suge Knight because Tupac was planning to leave Death Row Records. He even denied that his nephew, Orlando Anderson, was the trigger man. Complete denial, total misdirection. For years, this was the official story in federal files. Dirty cops, record label drama, internal West Coast conflicts. Meanwhile, the real orchestrators were building their empires undisturbed. Sean Combs launches Bad Boy Entertainment into the stratosphere. Jay-Z establishes Rockefeller Records. Both men become hip-hop billionaires, while investigators chase dead ends in California.
It's 2020, y'all. Yeah. And it's different than when it was 2016. You know, the game has been elevated. As we can tell, there's no expense being spared. We had a black billionaires lunch. Yeah. You understand? Right. And we here together, and we're gonna keep staying together.
But federal agents weren't completely fooled. They kept Keefe D. as a confidential informant for substance cases. They knew he was lying about Tupac, but they needed him for bigger operations. Keefe D. was the leader of a Southside Crips faction that moved over 360 kilos of C powder and PCP. The feds were playing the long game. During this period, Jay-Z's connection to the conspiracy remained hidden. But industry insiders knew that East Coast and West Coast labels were engaged in more than musical competition. There were financial territories, distribution deals, and market control at stake. Eliminating Tupac wasn't just personal, it was business. The cover-up worked perfectly for nearly a decade. Gang warfare narratives satisfied the public. Music industry moguls stayed untouched. Federal investigators focused on street-level players, while the real decision-makers remained in their corporate offices. By 2008, both Combs and Jay-Z had become cultural icons. Combs expanded into television and fashion and spirits. Jay-Z married Beyonce and became hip-hop's first officially recognized billionaire. The perfect success story, unless you knew what federal agents were about to uncover. Because in December 2008, everything changed. Keefe D. was ready to tell the truth, and the truth was about to destroy everything. December 2008, the moment everything changed. After 10 years of lies and misdirection, Keefe D. sits across from LAPD detectives and FBI agents in a sterile interview room. This time he's ready to tell the truth. And the truth is absolutely explosive. Gone are the stories about Compton cops and internal death row drama. Keefe D. looks directly at Detective Greg Kading and drops the bombshell that will rewrite hip-hop history. Sean Diddy Combs offered him $1 million to eliminate both Tupac and Suge Knight.
Man, I'll give you $1 million, whatever it takes. You know, it's like exaggerated speech. But of course, when we interview Keefe D, he's like, yeah, that's the agreed amount, was $1 million.
Picture the room going silent, federal agents exchanging glances, recording equipment capturing every word of what would become the most important confession in music industry history. Keefe D describes the meeting with Eric Zip Martin, Diddy's associate, who allegedly provided the weapon and logistical support. The plan was simple: eliminate Death Row's leadership and clear the way for Bad Boy's total West Coast domination. But here's where Jay-Z's involvement becomes clear. Multiple sources report that East Coast hip-hop moguls were coordinating behind the scenes. Jay-Z allegedly knew about plans for retaliation against West Coast artists and provided intelligence about Tupac's movements and vulnerabilities. The federal agents realize they're not dealing with just anyone. They're uncovering a corporate conspiracy involving music industry billionaires. But they can't use Keefe D's confession immediately because of proffer agreements and ongoing D investigations. 2009 brings another interview, another layer of shocking revelations. Keefe D admits that neither he nor Orlando Anderson ever received the full payment for Tupac's elimination. He believes Zip Martin kept the money for himself, creating tensions within the conspiracy.
The story that has circulated was that after Tupac got killed, Puffy allegedly gave the money
I heard
to Zip.
Yes.
And Zip was supposed to give the money to Keefe and them.
Yes.
But he never gave the money.
The detail is crucial because it explains why Keefe D eventually started talking. He felt betrayed by the same East Coast moguls who hired him, then left him unpaid and exposed. Federal documents show that DEA agents documented 47 separate mentions of Diddy's name in connection to Tupac's case. Not random mentions, specific allegations about payments, W's, meetings, and coordination. By 2011, Detective Greg Kading publishes Merc Rap, revealing his investigation findings to the public. The book details million-dollar contracts from music industry moguls to Los Angeles gangs for eliminating rival artists. Kading's research exposes a pattern. East Coast and West Coast labels weren't just competing musically, they were literally hiring street G's to eliminate competition. Tupac and Biggie's passings weren't random G incidents. They were business decisions made in corporate boardrooms. The book also reveals Jay-Z's alleged role as an information broker, providing East Coast conspirators with intelligence about West Coast artists' schedules, security details, and personal habits. This intelligence was allegedly crucial for planning successful operations. But here's the most chilling part. Federal agents realized that both Combs and Jay-Z had been building their empires on B money for over a decade. Every platinum album, every business deal, every award was built on a foundation of eliminated competition. The truth was finally emerging, but the real players remained protected by layers of corporate lawyers and connections. 2017 arrives with a media earthquake that shakes the hip-hop world to its core. BET's Death Row Chronicles features Keefe D publicly confessing his role in Tupac's elimination for the first time. No more coded language, no more protection agreements. Just raw, unfiltered truth broadcast to millions.
Suge looks over, he sees you.
Yeah.
He looks right at you.
Yeah, he looks at me.
You said the shots came from the back. Big Dre, Orlando. Who shot Tupac?
To keep it for the code of the streets. It just came from the backseat, bro.
The interview sends shockwaves through the industry. Keefe D calmly describes receiving the item in the front seat, passing it to Orlando Anderson in the back, and watching his nephew eliminate hip-hop's biggest star. But more importantly, he confirms who ordered the hit, Sean Combs. Social media explodes with theories connecting Jay-Z to the broader conspiracy. Fans dig through old interviews, song lyrics, and industry relationships, uncovering disturbing patterns. Why did Jay-Z's career skyrocket immediately after Tupac's passing? Why did he never publicly acknowledge Tupac's contributions to hip-hop? 2019 brings Keefe D's memoir, Compton Street Legend, which provides unprecedented details about the East Coast conspiracy. The book reveals how music industry moguls used gang networks to eliminate competition while maintaining plausible deniability. Keefe D writes, Tupac chose the wrong game to play and the wrong people to play with. This isn't just street talk, it's a direct reference to corporate decision makers who saw Tupac as a threat to their market dominance.
You said what you did, and I don't know how you thought, because everybody associated with that situation, that would give you your green light to, this is a story, I was in that car, I didn't pull no trigger, but you were a part of that.
The memoir also reveals Jay-Z's alleged role in providing intelligence about West Coast artists. According to Keefe D, East Coast moguls had detailed information about Tupac's travel plans, security arrangements, and personal conflicts. This intelligence was crucial for planning the Las Vegas operation. But here's where the story gets really sinister. Federal agents discover that both Combs and Jay-Z allegedly profited directly from Tupac's elimination. Market share shifted dramatically after Tupac's passing, with East Coast labels gaining unprecedented control over hip-hop distribution and marketing. YouTube interviews throughout this period show Keefe D getting increasingly specific about the corporate conspiracy. He describes meeting with music executives who provide funding and coordination for street operations. While he names Diddy directly, industry insiders understand he's referring to a broader network, including Jay-Z. The public revelations create pressure on federal investigators to reopen the case. Las Vegas Police Department announces in 2018 that new information has reinvigorated their investigation. That new information is Keefe D's public confessions implicating music industry giants.
The feds are so deep and involved in this that Diddy just might be called up on that Tupac shit once they go through the money trail.
By 2023, federal agents have built an overwhelming case against Keefe D. But more importantly, they've documented a paper trail connecting music industry payments to gang operations. Bank records, communication intercepts, and witness testimonies all point to the same conclusion. Tupac's elimination was a business decision disguised as GW. September 29, 2023 becomes the day everything changes. Keefe D is arrested at his Henderson, Nevada home on first-degree charges. But federal agents make it clear, he's just the beginning. The real targets are the corporate conspirators who ordered the hit and profited from the aftermath. The arrest sends panic through music industry boardrooms. If Keefe D talks to avoid a life sentence, he could expose the entire network of moguls, executives, and celebrities who helped plan and cover up hip-hop's most notorious corporate A. September 29, 2023, the day that changed everything. Federal agents and Las Vegas police surround Keefe D's suburban Henderson home with SWAT vehicles, flashing lights, and search warrants. After 27 years of investigations, cover-ups, and corporate protection, the walls are finally closing in.
It's becoming more apparent that Dwayne Keefe D. Davis likely talked himself into his own indictment nearly 3 decades after Tupac Shakur.
We now know more evidence considered by a Clark County grand jury in returning an indictment against Dwayne Keefe D. Davis.
The arrest sends immediate shockwaves through the music industry. Keefe D is charged with first-degree involvement in Tupac's elimination. But federal prosecutors make it clear, he's just the beginning. The real targets are the corporate conspirators who ordered the hit. Court documents reveal the bombshell evidence federal agents have been collecting for decades. Bank records showing suspicious transfers from East Coast music companies to Los Angeles G networks. Communication intercepts documenting coordination between music executives and street operatives. Witness testimonies implicating both Diddy and Jay-Z in the elimination conspiracy. July 2024 brings the most explosive development yet. Clark County prosecutors release court filings directly accusing Sean Combs of orchestrating Tupac's elimination. Not speculation, not rumors. Official federal accusations based on documented evidence and witness testimonies.
Family of Tupac Shakur is investigating a potential link between the Tupac and Sean Diddy Combs.
The filing reveals Keefe D's 2009 police interview where he implicated Diddy as the mastermind behind the $1 million contract. Federal agents corroborated these claims with financial records showing payments from Bad Boy Entertainment to intermediaries connected to Los Angeles gangs. But the real shocker comes in October 2024. Tupac's family hires Alex Spiro, Jay-Z's personal attorney, to investigate potential connections between their client and the elimination plot. Industry insiders immediately recognized this as damage control. Why would Jay-Z's lawyer represent Tupac's family unless Jay-Z had something to hide? DJ Academics breaks the story that sends the internet into overdrive. Jay-Z allegedly sent his attorney to link Diddy to Tupac's case and deflect attention from his own involvement. The move backfires, creating more suspicion about Jay-Z's role in the conspiracy. Federal investigators intensify their probe into both moguls. Former FBI agent Phil Carson publicly states, "There are people out there that have information regarding the Tupac situation, and they were close to Tupac, and they are close to Diddy." Translation: federal agents know exactly who was involved, and they're building cases across multiple targets.
Now, this investigation had been previously reported by unnamed sources, but earlier today, Spiro confirmed to our Court TV team that he and a team of investigators has been hired.
By early 2025, both Combs and Jay-Z are reportedly under federal investigation for their alleged roles in organizing Tupac's elimination. Bank records, communication intercepts, and witness testimonies all point to a corporate conspiracy that spanned multiple music labels and involved payments to SGs for eliminating competition. The investigation reveals that Tupac's elimination wasn't a random gang incident. It was a calculated business decision made by music industry executives who saw Death Row Records' success as a threat to their East Coast dominance. Federal prosecutors are reportedly preparing charges against multiple music industry figures for running a criminal enterprise disguised as legitimate business. Later, Kirk Burroughs, former Bad Boy Records co-founder, files a lawsuit detailing Diddy's alleged involvement in orchestrating Tupac's elimination. The lawsuit provides insider testimony about meetings where East Coast executives discussed handling the West Coast problem permanently. The legal net is tightening around both Diddy and Jay-Z as federal prosecutors prepare to expose hip-hop's darkest corporate conspiracy. The evidence is overwhelming. 47 documented mentions of Diddy's name in federal court files. Recorded confessions from 2008 to 2009. LAPD interviews directly implicating him in the $1 million contract. Banking records showing suspicious transfers from music industry accounts to Los Angeles gang networks immediately before and after Tupac's elimination. Jay-Z's involvement becomes undeniable when federal agents discover communication records between East Coast music executives coordinating intelligence gathering on West Coast artists. Phone records, meeting schedules, and financial transactions all point to a conspiracy involving multiple moguls.
Landslides don't happen slowly, right? You'll be standing on the side of a mountain admiring its beauty and glamour, and then 1 second later you're buried in mud, right? This does not shock me. This does not surprise me. I can promise you this is not the last thing that we find out about people investigating Diddy and what he's done.
The family's decision to hire Jay-Z's personal attorney creates a massive conflict of interest that federal prosecutors exploit brilliantly. By representing Tupac's family while simultaneously protecting Jay-Z's interests, Alex Spiro inadvertently confirms both men's involvement in the same case. Former FBI agent Phil Carson drops bombshells in public interviews. Anything's on the table for prosecuting music industry figures. Multiple witnesses allegedly have explosive information about corporate involvement in eliminating rival artists. Cross-jurisdiction cooperation between federal and local authorities suggests charges are imminent. The investigation expands beyond Tupac's case to examine patterns of music industry violence spanning decades. Federal agents discover evidence suggesting both Combs and Jay-Z profited from eliminating multiple competitors, not just Tupac. So there you have it, 30 years of lies, cover-ups, and corporate conspiracies finally exposed. Federal agents have built an overwhelming case connecting Jay-Z and Diddy to Tupac's elimination. 47 federal mentions, recorded confessions, banking records, and witness testimonies, all pointing to the same shocking conclusion. Hip-hop's biggest moguls built their empires on B-money. The truth is finally emerging. Justice is coming. And when federal prosecutors file those charges, everything changes. $2 billion empires, one massive conspiracy, zero ways to escape what's coming next.